So in this video I'm going to very quickly explain how to create a system very similar to Skyrim's in RPG in a Box. This is useful for a couple of reasons. First of all, it will allow you to have chests that have scripts attached to them but also still act as containers. But also it can be used by multiple NPCs being able to access a common inventory. So rather than making a specific inventory per merchant, for example, you could have all your merchants in the game share the same container. So, to quickly demonstrate why we have a problem with chests and scripts, let me quickly set one up. So I've got a chest here, which if I go into its properties and make it a container, and I add a couple of items to the container, and what I'm going to do is add a script to the interacts of the container. So I'm going to very quickly go to the script editor, make a quick script called chest open, and what this is going to do is it's going to display a message, but before that it's also going to play an animation. On self, because we're going to use this on the chest, and it's an animation called open. And then after that it's going to display a message, and that message is going to be something like you peer into the chest and see a load of goodies inside, something like that. And obviously this would be where you would put your flavor text or whatever it is you want for the story that you're trying to tell, because maybe this chest is quite a significant chest to your quest or something like that, so you don't just want to open it, you want to have something happen when you open it, but at the same time you also want it to still act like a chest, a container. So with that done, we can save that, and we can go back to our map editor, and we can go back to the properties of our chest, and we can add that in the character interact section, chest open. And then what we'll do is on close script, we'll make a very quick secondary script. In fact, undo that, didn't mean to do that. Save as chest close. And we'll just delete the display message and we'll switch this to close. And save that. So then what we can do is on close of our container, we can run chest close. So let's save that and see what happens in game. I'm also just going to quickly make sure we give this an entity ID. So let me just quickly call it something like treasure chest. So here we are in the game. So if I use the chest, it opens, we get our flavor text, but now when I click off, we only get our inventory, we do not see the inventory of the container. After it closes, so everything's working except it's not acting like a container anymore, because whenever we access it we get the open, we get the text, but we then don't get the container itself appearing once we've gone past that point. And maybe you think the solution is to tell it to show the container at the end. The problem with that is if we go to the script editor and we open our chest open script and we add a container open command, let's add one of those in and connect that up, and we put into here treasure chest. So we're now telling the treasure chest to open at the end of all of this. Let's try that. Right, so here we are in game. I had to go back to the editor because I mistyped the ID for the chest, but now let's use it. So the chest opens and it says you peer into the chest and see a load of goodies inside, but now when we click off the message, it doesn't, it's stuck. The game is now locked into this mode. And the reason for this is what Open Container actually does is it reuses the object that it's attached to. So in this case, it's trying to reuse this chest. Now we've set a script on the use of this chest that it should do all of this. So it's just continually doing this over and over and over again. So it's trying to open the box and show this message. And then when we've closed it, it's trying to open the box and close and show the message. It's just doing that over and over and over and over again. So Open Container isn't going to work for us either because it's just constantly reusing the box, which we have a script on, so that's not going to work. So how do we do this? There's two ways that we can... That's interesting. If I press escape, it closes the box, but we're still stuck. So, yeah, I can't even quit out, so I'm going to have to Alt F4. So there's two ways we could go about this. One way is to improve the script and do an if check to see if, you know, we've opened it before, and then the first time we open it, it's not even a container, and then the second time we open it, it is. But I'm going to show you another way in this video that falls in line with the Skyrim system, which I've brought up at the beginning of the video. And there's also another reason why I'm going to show you this method, is because you can also use it not just for fixing chests that have scripts on them, but you can also use it for, as I say, NPCs that share a common inventory. So to fix this, what we're going to do is we're actually going to make this not a container. So I'm actually going to turn container off on the visible chest. And I'm going to leave this script as it is, but for now I'm going to remove the Open Container because we obviously don't want to open itself because we'll get into a loop otherwise. So save that, go back to the map editor, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a dummy object. So I'm going to go to the object, new object, set it to an object, and I'm going to call this, now you can call this something more generic. I'm just going to call this chest contents. But obviously if you were doing like a common inventory that merchants share, then you might call this merchant inventory, something like that. Set your size, it doesn't really matter. Say OK, and you're just going to leave it as it is. So I'm just going to set, I don't even need to save it, it's done. Now what you can do, let me also say that it's passable, so we can place it without the world knowing it's there. Save that. Now what you can do is you can just place it down nearby your container. So for example, we could put it there. And nobody would know it was there because you can only see this white box in the editor. When you're in game, that's invisible. But another thing that you could do is you could put a tile somewhere way off, and then you could put the inventory on that tile, and then you wouldn't need it to be even in your map. So it's entirely up to you what you do. Another thing that you could do is you could delete that tile, and we can make another tile. I'll just duplicate this one, and I'm going to call it invisible. And I'm going to put that there, put our chest contents on it, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But for now, let's set up our invisible chest container. So I'm going to delete this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on our custom-made invisible container. We're going to go into its properties, and this is where we're going to make it a container. And this is where we're going to add our free items into this container. We're going to set the onClose script to chest close, but we're going to have to make a change to that script, so I'll edit it in a minute. We could give this container a name, let's call it chest for now. And then I think that's pretty much it, because we're not doing an interact script on this, we're putting it on this. So now let's go back to our visible chest and edit this script, and now what we need to do is open container at the end. So we are going to do an open container, but we need to quickly go back to our map and give this an ID. So I'll just call this chest contents, save that, and we go into our script, and that's what we need to type in here, chest contents. So now what will happen is when we use the visible chest, let's just save that, this chest here, what it's going to do is it's going to play the animation on itself to open. then it's going to show this message, and then at the end of this message, instead of opening itself, it's going to open this container over here. And because this container doesn't have any scripts on it, it will just act like a normal container and open. But what we have done is on this container, we have put the onClose script to close the lid of this chest. However, we need to amend that script because this script at the moment refers to itself, because we had originally put this on the chest, but we're not putting it on the chest anymore, we're putting it on the invisible object. So we need this to actually refer to the treasure chest, literally. Okay, so that's now referring to the treasure chest rather than self, because self would be referring to the invisible object, which we don't want to close because that's invisible. So if we save that now, and then what I'm going to do now everything is set up, I'm going to edit our invisible tile and just delete all the voxels and save, and now it's all invisible. That's good. So save that. The reason I do it that way, by the way, is if the tile was invisible when we put it down, it would just be a nightmare to edit the things while it's invisible. So I made it visible first, did what I needed to do, and then I can just delete the pixels, or the voxels even, and it will save and stay in place but invisible. Anyway, that's just a side note. Let's now play this and see if it all works. So we'll go into new game, use the chest. So the chest opens, you peer into the chest, and now when we click, it opens the container that's over here, but it looks like it's this chest because it's called chest and it's got our items in it. We can take the items, and hopefully when we close this container here, it should close that lid. Boom. There we go. Now obviously at the moment, every time you click this, it's going to say this. So what we could also do, but I'm not going to do it in this video, but you would then do an if check that says if you've already opened it, don't show that message anymore. Let's do one last thing. Let's add an NPC into the map, and let's demonstrate the sharing of a container. So let's quickly create a dialogue for this NPC. Let me just give him an entity ID just in case I need it. I don't think so, but just in case. NPC1, something like that. And let's create a dialogue for this NPC. So let's go to new dialogue. We'll call this NPC dialogue. And OK, we'll add an NPC node, and we'll say got a selection of good things on sale, stranger. And we'll add an NPC player choice, and we'll add a script to this one. This one can be, oh, let me see, and this one can be no thanks. We'll add an NPC node here that says and then what we want to do in our script node is we want to open the container. So we want to type open container, drag that across, and this is obviously going to be chest contents in this case. Validate OK. And let me see if I can add another NPC node afterwards. So, how this should work now is, let's also make sure we assign the dialogue. So I'm going to select the NPC, go to when player interacts, start dialogue, NPC dialogue. So what we'll do is we'll prove that both the chest and this NPC share the same inventory. So we'll give this a play test. So if I use the chest it opens, we get our text, we get our inventory. Obviously it's called chest. If I take the apple, then now the chest no longer contains the apple. So now if I talk to the NPC, we get his opening line. We can say no thanks, and he says that, and we can carry on walking. Or we can talk to him, and if we say, ooh, let me see. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, it does it afterwards. Okay, so if you put an NPC node in, it actually comes before the script. Okay, for a minute I thought it hadn't worked. But here you go, you can see that the container's opened and the apple's missing because it's the same container. So we can obviously take the rest of the items and be done with it. So there you go. Obviously, if you wanted him to say the thing afterwards, then we wouldn't have done it in the dialogue. We would have done it in a script with a display message or something like that. But either way, you get the idea. The point of this video is to demonstrate that you can have NPCs and other containers all share a common container. So this is just to two purposes for this video really. It's just to give you another idea of what you can do with containers, but also show you how you can get around putting scripts on containers if they stop working. Make sure that the container isn't the thing you're trying to script in and of itself. Make sure there's something else somewhere else that is your container, and then it will work. So hope this video was helpful and useful, and as I say, any questions about this or anything else, feel free to find me on the Discord. But that will wrap up this video. Thanks for watching.